is be patient. At the same time is not given into the frustration and stuff. It takes a little bit of time to do the trial and error again, just to find out what they like and what they not and stuff. But if we kind of pay attention and listen to them, we'll get those cues, and it's not going to take like the longest time or anything. It's just a matter of us paying a little bit of attention instead of getting out of the overwhelm and listening to their cues and to kind of pay attention to what they do.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Mom Does It All. If you're looking for encouragement, empowerment, and uplifting in motherhood and mompreneurship, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Marta Spurk, triplet mom, certified success coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. In this episode, I'll be chatting with certified health and wellness coach, Carelyn Torres. We talk about how the key to handling picky eaters is creating intentionality for meals and nutrition. Let's get right to it. Hi, Carelyn. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Martha. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, I am too. So I do want to talk about like the main topic that you mentioned before we started the interview, which is picky eaters and how to deal with them and all of the things. But first, I want you to kind of walk us through your personal story, how you got to doing what you're doing right now and what the focus is and all of that. So go ahead and tell us.
All right. So I'm a certified health coach, and I work with moms, helping them to feel confident within their bodies so they can be a great influence into their kids. And the reason why I'm so passionate about working with the moms and the confidence in their bodies is because when I was in middle school, I remember starting school for 7th grade, and I already was hitting puberty at that point and seeing my friends changed. Like my best friend, for example, she used to be a little bit overweight, and on that summer she lost so much weight. And then I see some of the other girls kind of being skinny, petite, and I'm small myself, but I'm curvy. So it was like me starting comparing myself to them and thinking why my body is not like theirs. And I remember getting in home that day, that first day of school, and looking myself in the mirror and saying like, what do I need to do in order to have their bodies? And then my mom has been on diets before, and I've seen her doing like Jenny Craig and the slim fat diet and all that stuff. And that kind of like kicked in and said, oh, I'm fat and I need to start losing weight.
Wow.
So that was kind of like the first time when I got that self-image conscious or being self-conscious.
Right.
And then that diet mentality. And then after that, throughout the years, I've been kind of battling with weight fluctuations and then confidence as well. And since I was younger, I got into my mind saying like, I want to help women feel confident and not hold back in their lives. And when I hit motherhood, that was when it was really hard for me. Right. After my first son, I saw my 2 best friends. They lost the weight very quick, and they were back into their clothing in no time. And then in my case, it wasn't that way. And then I remember my husband asked me out, and then I was sitting in my closet trying to find out a cute set of clothes to wear, and nothing will fit. And I mean, I had maternity clothes, but you are out of your maternity, right? Yeah. So you're kind of in that stage where you think you want to use your cute clothing and all that stuff. Yeah. And it was just kind of like a heartbreaking there.
Yeah.
And that was the time when I said, is like, okay, I need to do something about it, and I need to work on myself because I want to make sure that my kid is not going through any of this stuff and he doesn't learn the things like, for example, I learned from my mom.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got here. And then I got certified as a health coach, and then I went through my journey, and it has been amazing.
That's awesome. And that's the beauty too, when you help someone go through a transformation, it's something that you've already gone through yourself. And that's why you know how powerful it is. And you want to help other people go through the same process and also have an impact on their kids. And you want to have an impact on your kids. So I can totally relate to you there. And also to the whole thing of let's go out and nothing fits. That was and it's hard. And it's something that, like, for me, in my case, I knew was going to happen because obviously I put on a lot of weight for having triplets. But at the same time, you kind of hope, like, maybe it'll fit right away. And then when it doesn't, it is disappointing. And it's a lot of emotional work to, like, the whole, body image and everything, especially if you've had issues in the past, which I did too. Like, I grew up pretty much the same style, like what you said, being curvier, being small. So I can totally relate to everything that you said. So I love that. And then where does the picky eating come in, and how do you help moms in that area that might be picky eaters themselves, or that are trying to live a healthier lifestyle, but their kids are not having it, or maybe the husband too?
So, I'm a picky eater myself, or I like to call myself a reformed picky eater, if that makes sense. So through my journey, I learned how to eat healthy and how we set the example for our kids. So that's when I come where the picky eater part comes. I wanted to make sure I'm giving the best to my kids in terms of nutrition, and then the example as well. So I did everything I could so I could emulate that for them. So since I was a picky eater, I started navigating what could I do in order to start liking, for example, vegetables. And I do have a story here for how I got into the vegetables part. Okay. And it was basically thanks to my husband. My husband, he cooks, and he cooks pretty good, although now I do most of the cooking, but he did the vegetables, like he would marinate them and season them. So I was used to kind of seeing just like this steam blend vegetables, and those are not appealing at all for me. Mm-hmm. And you won't, I won't put in my mouth any of that. Right. And he would just marinate them with like olive oil and do a couple of seasonings here and there. And I did enjoy them. And I started practicing, and I was like, okay, let me see, like the flavors that I would like, and then pair them with the vegetables or other healthy eating foods. And then, not that I'm the best, because you cannot get me eating like the chocolate mushrooms or the chocolate coffee or the mushroom coffee or any of that stuff. That's not me, but I do eat vegetables in all my meals, or I try to. Mm-hmm. And I do eat my fruit, and then I eat whole foods. I usually try to do fresh ingredients for the most part. And I've done all the things that I did for myself. I did it with my kids. And thankfully, today, like my oldest son will eat a sushi roll with no problem.
Nice.
And they eat raw onions, and they would eat anything. That's awesome. I mean, they do have their days, because toddlers' palates change. Like today they will like something, tomorrow they say they don't like it. It's kind of normal and part of development. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I would say that what I've done with them, it has worked. Nice. And I help the moms do this as well. Like I help them feed their kids healthy and themselves. Mm-hmm. And to just give them some tips and tricks. I know there are kids that are like, I used to be impossible. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of being patient and that.
Right. And then something that you did mention before is how to identify why your child doesn't like a particular food. So can you kind of walk us through that? Because I need to learn this right now. Because with 3, with different tastes, and the whole thing of today I like something and the next day I don't like something. So that's something that I totally want to learn.
No, absolutely. So you know that we have the senses. So you could have, the food have different textures and flavors, and the smell and the temperatures and stuff. So one of the things that I have found out is a lot of the problems are due to texture and then flavor, in my case, for example. So when it comes to texture, you need to find out, like, does your child like crunchy or soft or smooth, creamy? And then based on that will give you some information. And then based on that, you can decide how to cook the vegetable. So for example, if you like a crunchy vegetable, or if they like crunch, you could serve a raw vegetable and maybe just slice it very thin.
Okay.
If you want a softer vegetable, you can just roast it or steam it. And if you want like a softer but yet crisp, then you can saute it or stir fry the vegetable.
Right.
So it's a matter of finding what your kids like, or what you like in particular. So for example, my older son, he cannot see a cooked onion on his plate. But we go to this Peruvian restaurant, and I got the recipe from the internet as well, where they have raw seasoned onions, red and white, and he would pour it on his plate, no problem, and he would eat it like that. And I'm like that too. Like I cannot eat, or I don't like eating cooked tomatoes, but I can eat it raw or fresh. So it's a matter of trying to find out what is it, what's the texture, what's the difficulty in your child when it comes to eating, or in yourself. And then playing with that. And then once you find out, for example, if in the texture, you can then find other vegetables or other foods that are similar. So for example, if they like broccoli, then maybe you can do cauliflower. If they like carrots, then you can do like parsnips as well, because it's kind of in the same similar area.
Yeah.
And then you can broaden the spectrum of the variety of the things that they do.
Oh, that's so interesting. And that makes total sense. And I can already start thinking about like different things that I noticed. One of them will eat more of because it's crunchier, where the other ones are not so interested because it's harder to chew on. So that's totally makes sense. And I love that. And that's something that you can use not only for your kids, but for yourself too. Like what you were saying, experiment with different seasonings, and the texture is very important too. Because sometimes I feel like that with like steamed broccoli sometimes, or even with green beans. Sometimes it kind of almost makes me gag. And I think it's because of the texture. So that makes total sense. Awesome. And another thing that you said too is so this you're doing, testing it out with the textures and everything. And another way of doing it is sneaking things into their foods. What are some of the techniques that you use and that you teach other moms to use too?
So for example, a good way that I like to do so in the breakfast. So I do smoothies. Sometimes for the kids, they love it. They love fruit and stuff. And what I did it this last week. I blend in kale on it.
Nice.
Believe it or not, like I tried kale chips and I didn't like the flavor at all. And I've been kind of avoiding the kale, but I tried it in their eggs, for example, in the scrambled eggs, and they ate it like no problem. Yeah. And I did it in the smoothies, and then it was green colors. So I kind of, we're in the holidays. So the Grinch it's on the news and stuff, and they're advertising like the green pancakes or something like that. So I was like, well, these are not pancakes, but you have like your green smoothie. Yes. And they bought it, and they just
that's awesome. That's really smart.
And they just do. So it's a matter. So it's, again, it goes with like the appearance and the texture and the flavor and stuff. So kale, it's one of the things that it's kind of mild in flavor when you mix it with like the fruits and the chia seeds and all the other stuff that you put in the smoothie. Mm-hmm. So it's a good one. And then it's green. You can just tell a story to your kid about whatever you want, whatever appeals to them in terms of like the colors and stuff, you can do it. You can add beets, and then you can make it red, and then you can tell them, I don't know, something else. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And then another thing is in the sauces. Sauces are great because you can do a blend of different vegetables. Mm-hmm. You can then just put it in the food processor, or in your, like I have my, it kind of blanked my mind, in the food processor, and then it just puree everything. Mm-hmm. And then it's done. Yeah. So the other day I was, there was like a beet marinara sauce or something, and that was just delicious.
I bet. That sounds delicious.
So it had beets and it had other vegetables on it. And then the kids, it doesn't really feel like the whole beet flavor, for example. And the kids just ate it with no problem. So it's a matter of, you put it into like different type of foods. Baked goods, it's another one. I do zucchini carrot muffins that they like. You could put avocado, for example, as kind of like a substitute for butter, or you could do some of the other exchanges. I do fruit instead of sugar, for example. Uh-huh. So I'm adding more vitamins and stuff for the baked goods, and that makes it good. You can even put oatmeal in your smoothie, for example, and that's a whole grain that you can add it in there. So it's a matter of finding different opportunities and just adding it there. And then again, it's a matter of experimenting to see what they like and what they not. Like I added, I think in the smoothie was like a cup of kale. I think I could add more. But it's just, I started with that, and then we'll see.
Start small.
Yeah, we cannot be too ambitious at the time.
Right. Oh, and that's so genius, even for yourself. Like, again, because usually when you think picky eaters, you think kids, but there's lots of adult picky eaters out there, or people that are just not used to eating vegetables and they don't know how to incorporate it. It feels funny, and you don't want to eat salads every meal anyways. So this is great and it's sneaking it in literally for yourself too, even if you know it's in there. If you can taste it, sometimes even if you just taste it very mildly. I love that. I love actually putting like frozen kale, frozen spinach. I saw the other day someone saying to put frozen cauliflower on shakes, on like smoothies, because you can't really taste it. And I haven't done that, but
I haven't tried it myself, but yes, I have heard of it too.
Yeah, so that's genius too. Awesome. Love these tips. And another thing that you did mention as well was how to involve the kids in the process. And I think that's super important. That's something that I've been meaning to do. It's just hard to do it with the 3 by myself, to have them like participate in the kitchen and like help me stir, because it's just like easier to do it without them.
Absolutely.
But I'd love to hear your tips on that too.
So yeah, this is an area that I have seen that they get very excited about. So I try to involve them in the meal planning. So I ask them, so my 1-year-old, he doesn't speak much, but I know what he likes. But my 3-year-old, at least I do involve him. I ask him like, what do you want to eat and stuff? Although if I could let him, he would just eat pasta. But that's his favorite thing in the world. But so it's a matter of asking them and involving in the meal planning when you're doing that part. So they have some sort of authority, or at least they feel that they have a say on the matter. And then when we're doing grocery shopping as well, I try to go by myself if I'm kind of in a rush, because it's going to be much faster. But not always I have that advantage of going by myself. So I take them to, especially Trader Joe's. They love it because they have like the small carts and he can drive it.
Oh, nice.
And he goes in and he picks the vegetables and he's like, oh, mommy, I like this. And it could be something that he has never tried before, but because of the color or the shape or whatnot, it kind of appeals and grabs his attention. So he picks the vegetables and I tell him, okay, we need to pick carrots, or we need to pick zucchini, or whatever we need to pick. And he takes it and he puts it in the cart and he feels so proud because he's doing the grocery shopping himself. And when they get involved like that, they get more curious. They ask more questions and they ask about the food. And then I take the opportunity to explain to them. They give them energy. It's going to make them feel good and whatnot. And maybe it's not going to sink in with them like right at this moment, but eventually it will.
Yes.
And then I also like to involve them in the kitchen, at least when I'm prepping the food, in terms of like they could wash the fruit and the vegetables, and you would see them, anything with water, they like it. So
anything that can potentially make a mess, they will love.
I know. So yeah, it's a matter of us moms kind of consciously saying, okay, or preparing ourselves. It could be a mess, but at the same time, it could be so fun and it's quality time with the kids.
Totally.
Like in the grocery, going back to the grocery store, like I remember he was picking up, we were doing some like O'Brien muffins or whatnot. I don't know what it was. But he was like, Muffin Man, so singing the song, and we were like singing the song. And the whole way we were doing the grocery store, people were looking at me and was like, you know what? It's quality time with the kids, and you have to do what you have to do in order to keep them like behaving and do good.
Yes.
So going back to the kitchen quickly, like my son now, he likes to mix the eggs, like whisk the eggs when I'm doing scrambled eggs. He's like, Mommy, I want to see eggs. And he sits on the floor and scrambles like that, no problem. And then I pour it in the stove or in the pan, and then I cook them. So it's a matter of finding activities that they are able to do.
Yes.
Again, it could be messy, but at the same time, it's going to help them grow interest in terms of the food and the cooking and all that stuff. And in my case, I have 2 boys, but I would love for them to be to grow knowing how to cook. And again, it's just knowing about food and then the different alternatives they have to do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So yeah. So go ahead.
And it's such an important reminder, because we are, go about our busy days and
doing all of the things. And it's not to say that you have to involve them in every single thing that you're doing with food, because that could be overwhelming too, but just taking that time. And I love how you said not only the cooking part, because that's what I had in mind, but just, when you go grocery shopping or even before, let's make a list together. Let's think of the ingredients. Like, anything is a learning opportunity for kids anyways. And then having them involved in this process is going to make them be like, okay, vegetables are not that scary, right? Because it's all in the way that we portray things for them, right? Whether consciously or subconsciously, not involving them could create more problems than not. So yeah, I love that. That's such important advice. Thank you for the tips.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is, what is like your biggest piece of advice for moms in terms of like picky eating for themselves or for the family, or they're just feeling overwhelmed? Like, I want to eat healthier. I just don't really know where to begin, or it just seems too complicated and it's just easier to eat frozen dinners.
Yeah, usually we get frustrated and we tend to give in. So my biggest piece of advice is be patient. At the same time is not give in into the frustration and stuff. It takes a little bit of time to do the trial and error again, just to find out what they like and what they not and stuff. But if we kind of pay attention and listen to them, we'll get those cues, and it's not going to take like the longest time or anything. It's just a matter of us paying a little bit of attention instead of getting out of the overwhelm, and listening to their cues and to kind of pay attention to what they do. One thing as well is not make the mealtime enjoyable and not put pressure on them. Because I do know, and I did it myself in the beginning. Like, I would tell my kid, eat it all and then you can have dessert, or you're not going to stand up from the table until you eat everything. But it was creating pressure and it was creating tension on the table. And that's not what I wanted to portray to them. So it would be good if you can just make the meal times fun and enjoyable, involve them if you can. If not, just kind of create those conversations, no distractions with the electronics. Listen to them at that time, make stories, make it fun, and emulate whatever you want for them to do. So if we want to eat vegetables, let us eat the vegetables, and then they will eventually get there. So it's kind of start acting the way we want them to do.
It all boils down to that, right? Sometimes we think it's something so complicated and out of the world that we need to start doing, but really it's super simple. We just have to do it. And I love what you said about creating tension, because that's definitely, like, meal times have been a little bit stressful for me, because now they don't sit still. Like, they want to stand up, like stand on their chairs while they're eating, like, it is tense because they want to do exactly the opposite of what I tell them to do. It's like they will eat, but they're super distracted, like too much energy. So I love the idea of taking a deep breath, not letting it be so tense, and making it fun, telling a story or something, and also modeling what you want them to do. So sitting down, making a point to sit down and eat at the same time, which is something that I have a hard time doing as well, because I'm just like, they're contained for the most part, sitting on their chairs, so I can go, mess with the dishes or do something else. But that takes away from that moment that we all sit together and that they see me eating as well. So that's a great reminder for me too.
Absolutely.
How can moms find you? What are some of the resources that you have? Tell us. So
I'm in Facebook and Instagram. All my handles are Carelyn Torres. So it's CarelynTorres.
Okay.
So that's Facebook and Instagram. And then I do have CarelynTorres.com. That's my website. And I do have a kind of like a picky eater guide. So it's like 5 steps that have worked for me. So it could be, it's something that they can download and get, and I'll give you the link so you can add it into the description of the video or the recording. And then I do have others in my Facebook group as well. I do have slow cooker meals and one sheet pan meals, which are absolutely great ways to put healthy meals in your table and with really not much stress. Like you just do maybe 50 minutes of prep or 10 minutes of prep, and then dinner will be ready either in 30 minutes or 8 hours or whatever, but you don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my favorite kind of meal. Either the crock pot, Instant Pot,
yep.
or the oven. Just put everything in there. Don't worry about it. Love it. Yep. I need to get all these guides myself. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of these tips. Like, so rich. I love it. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I'm here to help. So that's my passion. So anything you guys need, feel free to let me know.
Thank you so much for joining me today. How cool were these tips to make sure your little ones are eating healthy? Be sure to connect with Carelyn and also share this episode. Share the Mom Does It All podcast on social media and tag me. And don't forget to leave us a quick 5-star rating and review. It would mean the world to me and will make sure more mamas hear this message of empowerment.